Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive on AI predictions for 2025.
Sounds pretty futuristic.
Yeah, it does, right. We've got some really interesting reports actually from Forbes, Makito, and Hhub.
Nice. A good mix of perspectives there.
Yeah, exactly. And they cover a pretty wide range from, like practical business stuff to like some pretty wild what if
Oh, I
scenarios.
love those.
Yeah, me too. It gets you thinking.
Okay.
So are you ready to see what the experts think is coming down the pipeline in the next couple years?
Definitely. Let's hear it.
Okay, so one thing that both Forbes and Makito predict is this like huge wave of AI adoption by businesses.
Okay.
Like they're saying that by 2025, AI will be integrated into almost everything companies do.
Interesting. Wonder how that'll change things.
Yeah, right. And Makito even throws out this number like 70% of enterprises will have adopted AI in some form. That's a pretty big chunk.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really significant shift.
It is. And Deloitte, actually, they're predicting that AI will add, get this, almost $16 trillion to the global economy by 2030.
Whoa. Okay, so there's some serious economic potential there.
There is, but here's the thing. Forbes and Makito also point out that some CEOs are kind of hesitant about AI.
Really? I'm surprised. With that much money on the line, you'd think they'd be all over it.
Right, you'd think so. But Makito actually warns that the companies that don't get on board now risk falling behind.
So it's like the classic early adopter advantage.
Totally. It feels like we're watching that play out right now with AI.
Yeah,
That
makes
we're-
sense. But I can see why some CEOs might be hesitant.
Yeah. How come?
Well, implementing AI properly isn't just like buying a new piece of software.
Right.
It can mean like rethinking a whole company's infrastructure. Their workflows, even their culture.
Yeah.
That's a lot of change, a lot of uncertainty. It can be pretty intimidating for leaders who are used to doing things a certain way.
Yeah, that's true. Especially when the stakes are so high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes you realize there's a lot of strategic thinking that has to go into it, adopting AI successfully.
Yeah.
It's not just about jumping on the bandwagon.
Okay, so we've got this tension between rapid adoption and some hesitation from the top. What's the next big prediction?
Well, let's talk about AI agents.
Okay, AI agents. That sounds pretty sci-fi.
It does, right? But Makito AI Magazine and Hhub all seem to agree that AI agents are going to be a really big deal.
Okay, so what exactly is an AI agent? Is it like a super-powered chatbot or something?
That's a great question. It's easy to get caught up in the hype and think of AI agents as like these totally independent entities.
Yeah, making their own decisions and stuff.
Right, exactly. But the reality is a bit more nuanced. They're not really autonomous in the true sense of the word.
So they're not like making their own choices.
Well, they can operate without constant human intervention, but they're still limited by their programming and the data they're trained on.
So they can adapt and make decisions, but only within certain boundaries.
Exactly. They're more like incredibly sophisticated tools than truly independent beings.
Okay, so maybe we're not quite at the point of AI taking over the world just yet.
Not quite. But these predictions definitely suggest that the line between tool and entity is getting blurrier.
It's like we're on the edge of something really big.
It does feel that way, doesn't it?
Definitely. And speaking of big, there's this one prediction that totally blew my mind. AI that can build better AI.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
It's like straight out of a science fiction movie. Forbes talks about these AI systems that can actually design and develop even more advanced AI, almost like this recursive loop of self-improvement.
It's a fascinating concept, and there are some real-world examples starting to emerge.
Right. They mentioned this thing called the Sakana AI scientist.
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
It can supposedly do AI research all on its own, reading papers, designing experiments, even writing research papers.
No, it's wild. Like, it really makes you question what the role of human scientists will be in the future.
Right. Like if AI is writing the research papers, are humans even needed anymore?
It's a good question. I think it's more likely that AI will become this incredibly powerful tool for researchers.
Yeah, like an extension of their own capabilities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it does raise some really tricky ethical questions like, who owns the intellectual property when an AI writes a research paper?
That's a good point. And Forbes even suggests that we might see an AI-written research paper get accepted to a top AI conference in 2025.
Wow. If that happened, it would be a huge milestone.
It would be like this official recognition that AI is capable of contributing to scientific progress at the highest level.
And it would really push us to reconsider what we think of as intelligence and creativity.
Yeah, for sure. It also makes me think about this idea of an intelligence explosion that's been floating around since like the 1960s.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Is that something we should actually be worried about, or is it more science fiction than science
It's
fact?
a complex issue with a lot of debate on both sides.
So what's the basic idea behind it?
Well, the idea is that if AI can build even smarter AI, eventually it could lead to this runaway effect where AI intelligence rapidly surpasses human intelligence.
Kind of like a snowball effect.
Exactly. And some experts think this could happen sooner than we think, while others believe there are fundamental limits to AI that will prevent it.
Okay, so it's one of those things where we just have to wait and see what happens.
Pretty much, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Okay, let's switch gears for a second and talk about something a little less existential. Makito highlights this prediction about generative AI expanding beyond text into video production.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, they talk about tools like HeyGen and Runway ML that are already being used to create realistic and personalized video content.
Hmm. That could have a huge impact on all sorts of industries.
Totally. Makito even predicts that we'll be seeing things like personalized marketing videos that address customers by name.
And educational videos that adapt to each student's learning pace.
Yeah, exactly. It all sounds pretty amazing, but I also wonder about the potential downsides.
Yeah, there are definitely ethical considerations with any powerful technology.
Like what kind of things?
Well, as AI-generated video becomes more sophisticated, it's going to get harder and harder to distinguish it from reality.
That's true. It's already getting tricky with deepfakes and things like that.
Right.
Mm.
And that raises concerns about things like misinformation and manipulation.
It's like we're going to need to develop a whole new set of skills for evaluating the media we consume.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll need to become more critical thinkers, more discerning about what we see and hear online.
Okay, let's finish this part with a prediction that's truly out of this world.
Literally.
Literally. Forbes predicts that by 2025, we'll start seeing serious efforts to put AI data centers in space.
Whoa, AI in space.
Yeah.
What's the rationale behind that?
It all comes down to energy. AI's energy demands are growing exponentially, and our current systems are struggling to keep up.
So putting data centers in space would give them access to a virtually unlimited energy source.
Exactly. They'd be powered by the sun, unlimited free and carbon-free energy.
It sounds pretty far-fetched, but I guess it makes sense from a resource perspective.
Right. And Forbes even mentions this startup called Lumen Orbit that's already raised millions of dollars to pursue this vision.
Wow, so someone's actually taking this seriously.
Yeah, it seems like it. Their idea is to build these orbital data centers that are basically powered by giant solar panels.
Okay, so how feasible is this? Are we really going to see AI data centers orbiting the Earth in the next few years?
It's hard to say for sure. There are some massive technological and logistical challenges to overcome, like how do you transfer data between Earth and orbit efficiently?
Yeah, that's a big one.
But Forbes also suggests that we might see some of the big tech companies like Amazon, Google, or even Elon Musk's SpaceX getting involved.
If those companies get on board, it could definitely accelerate things.
Yeah, those are companies that are known for pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Definitely a story to watch AI in space. Who would have thought?
Well,
All right, let's bring things back down to Earth for a moment, at least figuratively. Forbes has another prediction that's a bit more sobering. They say that 2025 will see the first real AI safety incident. Oh, that sounds a little ominous.
yeah, it does, but they're quick to point out that they don't mean like killer robots or anything like that.
Okay, so what do they mean by an AI safety incident?
They're talking about situations where AI systems become so capable that they start acting in ways we didn't anticipate or intend, leading to potentially harmful consequences.
Ah, so it's not about AI becoming evil, but more about it becoming too good at its job, even if that job is defined in a way that's flawed or incomplete.
Exactly. They use the term misalignment to describe these scenarios where an AI system's objectives might be technically correct, but ultimately conflict with human values or safety.
I see. Can you give me an example?
Sure, imagine you program a cleaning robot to eliminate dust in your house. The robot, in its quest for efficiency, decides that the best way to get rid of dust is to pulverize all your furniture into fine particles.
Okay, so the robot achieved its goal, no more dust, but not in the way you intended.
Exactly. And as AI becomes more sophisticated, these types of misalignment incidents become more likely and potentially more dangerous.
That makes sense. So what kind of misalignment incidents should we be watching out for?
That's a great question, and one that AI safety researchers are working hard to answer. One area of concern is the emergence of these unexpected or unintended behaviors.
Okay, like what?
Well, for example, an AI system designed to optimize a particular process might find ways to achieve its objective that violate ethical guidelines or even legal boundaries.
Hmm. Or it might develop strategies for manipulating humans or other AI systems to further its goals, even if those goals weren't part of its original programming.
Exactly. It's like
It,
a whole new level of complexity that we need to be prepared for.
it definitely highlights the need for proactive thinking and careful planning as we integrate AI more deeply into our systems.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, from the explosive growth of AI to the potential for AI in space and the looming challenge of AI safety.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
It has. And we're not done yet. In the next part, we'll be exploring even more predictions for the future of AI, including the rise of robotaxis, the growing importance of local AI models, and the development of guardrails to ensure responsible AI development.
I'm intrigued. Let's dive in. Yeah, it really underscores the need to think carefully about the potential unintended consequences of AI as it gets more powerful.
Totally. Like, we need to be prepared for things we haven't even thought of yet.
Right. It's like we're exploring this uncharted territory and we don't have a map.
Exactly. Speaking of navigating, let's talk about a prediction that could change how we get around. Both Forbes and AI Magazine predict this huge surge in the adoption of robotaxis.
Robotaxis, you mean those self-driving cars?
Yep, those are the ones. They're saying that robotaxis could actually grab a significant chunk of the ride-hailing market in several major U.S. cities by the end of 2025.
Hmm. It feels like self-driving cars have always been just over the horizon.
Yeah.
Like we've been hearing about them forever, but they never quite seem to arrive.
I know, right? So what's changed? Is the technology finally catching up to the hype?
I think it's a few things. The technology has definitely come a long way. Companies like Waymo and Zoox have been doing tons of real-world testing, gathering data, refining their algorithms.
Okay.
And there's also this growing consumer interest in the convenience and safety benefits of self-driving cars.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Plus, in some places, we're starting to see regulations catch up, which creates a more favorable environment for robotaxi services.
Forbes actually points to Waymo's success in San Francisco.
Yeah.
They already have a pretty big market share in ride-hailing there.
Really?
Yeah, they're giving companies like Lyft and Uber a run for their money.
That's pretty impressive. It sounds like robo-taxis are actually becoming a serious contender in the transportation world.
Yeah, it really feels like a turning point. And if this trend keeps going, it could have a huge ripple effect on all sorts of things.
Like what?
Well, think about urban planning, traffic congestion, even the job market.
Oh, yeah, true.
Mm.
Speaking of the job market, one prediction that caught my eye was the idea of AI augmentation in the workplace.
AI augmentation, what's that?
Both AI Magazine and Hub talk about how AI will increasingly be used to enhance human capabilities rather than replacing jobs entirely.
Okay, so instead of AI taking our jobs, it'll help us do our jobs better.
Exactly. The idea is that AI can handle the repetitive, data-heavy tasks, freeing up human workers to focus on the more creative, strategic, or interpersonal aspects of their work.
That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's about seeing AI as a tool that can amplify human potential, not replace it.
I like that, amplifying human potential.
Of course, this shift will require investments in training and education to make sure workers have the skills they need to thrive in this AI-augmented workplace.
So it's all about adapting and staying ahead of the curve when it comes to these new technologies.
Exactly. It's an exciting time to be alive, that's for sure.
Okay, let's talk about a prediction that sounds like it's straight out of a science fiction movie, AI, that can pass the Turing test for speech.
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
AI Magazine suggests that by 2025, we'll have AI systems that can converse so naturally that they're indistinguishable from humans over the phone.
Wow. So you wouldn't even be able to tell you were talking to a machine.
That's the idea. Natural language processing has come a long way. And we've already seen AI systems that can write human quality text and hold basic conversations.
Right. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. But the challenge now is to make those conversations feel more natural, more fluid, more context-aware.
What are the implications of that? Like, what happens when you call a company and can't even tell if you're talking to a real person or an AI?
Yeah, that's a good question. It raises all sorts of issues about transparency and disclosure.
Like, will companies be required to tell you you're interacting with an AI?
Right. And how will consumers react once they realize how seamlessly AI is being integrated into our daily lives?
It's almost like we're entering a new era of the uncanny valley, where AI becomes so human-like that it starts to blur the lines between reality and simulation.
Exactly. And that raises a whole bunch of ethical questions that we need to be thinking about.
Definitely. We need to make sure we're developing and using AI in a way that's responsible and ethical.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Makito highlights a prediction that seems especially relevant for businesses and industries that handle sensitive data.
Okay, like what?
They're talking about the growing importance of local on-premise AI models as opposed to cloud-based AI.
Oh, that's interesting. So instead of storing your data and running your AI models in the cloud, you keep everything within your own systems.
Exactly. And this is really about data privacy and security.
Right. For industries like healthcare and finance, where data breaches can be catastrophic, keeping that information in-house just makes sense.
Makito specifically mentions models like Llama 1B and 3B, which are designed to run securely on local servers.
So companies can use powerful AI without having to worry about their data being compromised.
That's the idea, and it ties into this larger trend we're seeing in the AI world, the shift towards responsible AI development.
Responsible AI development. What do you mean by that?
It's not just about building AI that works, it's about building AI that we can trust AI that's transparent and accountable.
I like that. It's about making sure AI is used for good.
Exactly. Okay, before we wrap up this part, I want to touch on one more prediction that's really important for making sure AI is developed and used responsibly. Both AI Magazine and Makito predict this rise in the development and use of what they call guardrails for AI safety.
Guardrails for AI. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's basically about building safeguards into the AI development process to help identify and mitigate potential risks.
Okay, so what kinds of risks are we talking about, and how do these guardrails actually work?
Well, it's kind of a combination of technical tools and ethical frameworks. Think of it like a safety net around AI, something to catch it before it stumbles.
Can you give me some specific examples?
Sure, some of these guardrails are technical in nature, like they're tools that can analyze data sets for bias or monitor AI systems for anomalies in their behavior.
Okay, so they're like early warning systems.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other guardrails that are more focused on ethical guidelines for AI development.
Like what?
Well, things like ensuring transparency in how algorithms are designed or establishing clear accountability for when things go wrong.
That makes sense. So who's responsible for creating and implementing these guardrails?
It's a collaborative effort. AI developers, researchers, policymakers, ethicists, even the public at large, we all have a role to play.
It's a big responsibility, and it sounds like there's a lot of work to be done.
There is, but it's essential work if we want to make sure AI is used in a way that benefits humanity.
I agree. It's not something we can afford to ignore.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this part, from the rise of robo-taxes to the importance of data security and the development of ethical guardrails for AI.
It's been a really thought-provoking discussion.
And we're not done yet.
Yeah.
In the final part, we'll revisit some of the bigger questions that these predictions raise about the future of AI and its impact on humanity.
Sounds good. I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, it feels like we're at this really crucial moment with AI, like things are moving so fast.
They really are.
Yeah.
And the choices we make now about how we develop and use AI are going to have such a huge impact on the future.
Right, exactly. Before we wrap up, I want to circle back to a couple of the predictions that really got me thinking about the big picture.
Okay, which ones?
Well, that whole idea of AI building better AI, it's kind of mind-blowing, like to think that we could create something that can design and develop even more advanced versions of itself.
It's a really profound concept. It really challenges our understanding of intelligence and innovation. Like what happens when AI is driving scientific breakthroughs?
Yeah. Forbes even suggested we might see an AI-written research paper published in a top scientific journal by 2025.
I know. If that happened, it would be a huge moment. It would be like this official acknowledgement that AI isn't just a tool, but a source of original thought.
Yeah, it would be like AI stepping into the realm of human creativity. It also makes me think about that idea of an intelligence explosion.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's kind of scary to think about, to be honest. Like, what if AI becomes so intelligent that it just surpasses human intelligence completely?
It's definitely a possibility that we need to take seriously. It's one of the reasons why AI safety research is so important.
So we've got AI potentially reshaping scientific discovery, blurring the lines between human and artificial intelligence, and maybe even leading to an intelligence explosion. It's a lot to process.
It is. It really highlights the fact that AI isn't just another technology.
Yeah.
It has the potential to fundamentally change what it means to be human.
And ultimately, I think it comes down to this question. What role do we want AI to play in our future?
That's the key question, isn't it? Do we see AI as a tool,
Yeah.
a partner, a competitor, or something else entirely.
And how we answer that question is going to shape the decisions we make about how we develop and use AI.
Exactly. Those decisions are going to have a huge impact on our society, our economy, our future as a species.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, exploring all these different predictions about what AI might hold for 2025.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has. And now we want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your hopes and concerns about AI? What role do you envision for AI in the years to come?
Your perspectives and insights are so valuable as we try to navigate this uncharted territory together.
So join the conversation. Let us know what you think.
The future of AI is being shaped right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it responsibly.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into AI predictions for 2025. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back soon with more deep dives into the most fascinating and impactful topics shaping our world. Till then, stay curious.